The knock at the door felt like the calm before a storm, sharp and deliberate, slicing through the quiet of our suburban street. Two men, in what looked like official uniforms, stood there, eyes cold and unreadable, their presence radiating authority. But something about them didn't feel right. My daughter was inside, unaware of the danger hovering just steps away, and my heart pounded with a mix of fear and disbelief. Letters, fines, and petty HOA complaints had escalated before, but this was different. This was personal, invasive, and impossible to ignore. Who were these people, and how far would they go to enforce rules that didn't even apply? I knew that in the next few moments, everything could change. Life in our neighborhood had always felt safe and ordinary. Weekends were filled with the gentle rhythm of mowing the lawn, waving to familiar neighbors, and watching my daughter spin joyfully on the swing set while I sipped coffee on the porch. Our home was a place of comfort, a small sanctuary framed by neatly trimmed hedges and white picket fences. The HOA existed in the background, a distant authority whose rules were mostly ignored, their notices rarely more than a passing nuisance. Yet beneath this calm, the first whispers of petty rules and neighborly complaints began to ripple. An overgrown bush here, a mailbox color there, tiny sparks that hinted at the chaos soon to erupt. I had no idea that these small, seemingly insignificant infractions would escalate, drawing our family into a relentless conflict that threatened our peace, our privacy, and the very sense of security we had taken for granted. What began as minor notices and casual complaints quickly spiraled into an unrelenting siege on our daily lives. Every morning brought a new letter, stamped with official logos, warning of violations I hadn't even known existed. Shrubs deemed too tall, paint colors that didn't meet a subjective standard, a mailbox slightly off center by an inch. Phone calls rang late into the evening, each one dripping with veiled threats and insinuations, as if every petty detail of our home could be weaponized against us. I meticulously documented everything, knowing that in this battleground, the smallest oversight could be twisted into leverage. Neighbors began to whisper, some supportive, others watching with thinly veiled curiosity, as the petty complaints intensified and the fines multiplied. Even my daughter noticed the tension. Glancing nervously at letters left on the doorstep and asking questions I couldn't fully answer. Every attempt to comply seemed to generate a new violation. The rules were endless, ambiguous, and constantly shifting, as if designed to keep us in a state of perpetual anxiety. Then came the first in-person confrontation. Two men claiming to represent the HOA, dressed in uniforms that appeared official enough to make my stomach tighten, standing on our porch and citing violations with a chilling precision. Their presence was intimidating, the way they moved and spoke designed to assert dominance, to make us feel powerless in our own home. I remained calm, heart-pounding, and documented every word, every gesture, every micro-expression that revealed the cracks in their supposed authority. Each encounter became a test of endurance, a mental chess game in which patience, strategy, and courage were the only tools available. Fines escalated, letters piled up, and the psychological toll weighed heavily on every moment of our days. Every step outside our front door felt like navigating a minefield, every neighbor glance a potential judgment. As the weeks passed, the tension mounted until it reached a point where avoidance was no longer possible. The situation had evolved from irritating bureaucracy to a full-blown threat to our sense of safety and control. And then, just when I thought we had endured the worst, an unexpected twist, a seemingly minor inspection, set the stage for a confrontation that would escalate beyond fines and warnings, turning our suburban street into a battlefield where the absurdity, injustice, and audacity of the HOA's power would be exposed, leaving me with no choice but to take a stand that would change everything. The confrontation came without warning, a sudden escalation that shattered the fragile calm we had clung to for weeks. Early one morning, I noticed unfamiliar vehicles pulling into our driveway. Two men in crisp uniforms, badges glinting in the sunlight, exuding authority in a way that made my stomach twist. But something felt off, their movements stiff, eyes avoiding mine, a subtle tension that hinted they were not what they claimed to be. My daughter was inside, blissfully unaware of the danger just steps away, and a rush of protective instinct surged through me. Every petty letter, every fine, every harassing phone call I had endured boiled up into a focused determination. I would not allow them to intimidate my family. They stepped onto the porch, reciting violations with mechanical precision, citing rules that seemed pulled from thin air, each word a calculated attempt to unnerve me. I stood firm, documenting every motion, every phrase, knowing that exposure was as important as resistance. As they pressed, attempting to assert dominance with a chilling calm, I revealed the evidence I had meticulously collected, credentials that didn't check out, citations that were fabricated or irrelevant, and procedural violations that undermined every claim they made. Their confident demeanor faltered, small signs of uncertainty flickering across their faces as I calmly, yet firmly, dismantled their arguments one by one. The power dynamic shifted in an instant. The hunter had become the hunted. Neighbors, drawn by the commotion, began to gather, their curiosity turning into collective scrutiny, their presence amplifying every word, every demand for the intruders to leave. Tension crackled in the air like static electricity, each heartbeat punctuated by the knowledge that this moment would define the outcome. The impostors attempted one last show of authority, raising their voices, gesturing aggressively, but every move was countered by my documentation, my preparation, and the quiet, unyielding certainty that I would not back down. Minutes stretched like hours as the confrontation reached its apex. Every glance, every gesture, and every pause carried the weight of anticipation. Then, decisively, I escorted them to their vehicles, recording their retreat, ensuring that the humiliation and exposure were complete. They left, their aura of control shattered, crawling back from the doorstep where they had tried to impose fear. Silence descended on the street, resonating with a sense of vindication and reclaimed power. Yet, as I watched them drive away, I realized that while the immediate threat had been neutralized, the lessons and vigilance demanded by this encounter would linger. The streets returned to their deceptive calm. But the experience had transformed me. The absurdity, injustice, and audacity of the HOA's overreach had been confronted head-on, revealing the fragility of false authority when met with preparation, courage, and resilience. As I closed the door behind me, the sound of my daughter's laughter filled the house, a powerful reminder that the true victory had always been about protecting what mattered most. And in that moment, I understood that the fight had changed everything. Not just for our family, but for the neighborhood itself. And the next steps, though uncertain, would be guided by the unshakable resolve we had forged in the heat of confrontation. In the weeks and months that followed, a cautious sense of normalcy returned to our home, though nothing would ever feel entirely the same. The shadow of that confrontation lingered, like a quiet pulse beneath every interaction with the HOA and the neighborhood at large, a constant reminder of how quickly authority could be weaponized, and how crucial it was to remain vigilant. The letters and fines that had once arrived, like clockwork, diminished in frequency. The tone of the HOA's communications softened, and the petty inspections and threats gradually ceased. What had once been an omnipresent weight on our family's peace slowly lifted, replaced by a sense of control and empowerment earned through careful preparation and steadfast courage. Neighbors who had once observed in silence began to speak up, emboldened by the knowledge that resistance was possible, that one family's firm stand could ripple outward and change the culture of the entire community. In quiet conversations over fences and across driveways, people shared stories of their own small battles and expressed relief at seeing someone confront the absurdity of rules enforced without fairness or logic. My daughter, once tense and uncertain at the sound of a knock or the sight of a uniformed figure at the street's edge, began to play freely again, her laughter echoing through the yard as a daily affirmation that our stand had mattered. Beyond our property lines, the neighborhood itself shifted. Petty complaints and invasive inspections began to lose their power, as residents collectively became aware of the HOA's overreach and started holding the association accountable for its actions. The psychological weight that had pressed on us for months was replaced with confidence, a quiet resilience that came from knowing we had defended not only our home, but our principles, our dignity, and our family's safety. In reflecting on the ordeal, I realized that the experience had imparted lessons far deeper than the immediate conflict. It had revealed the importance of documentation, of preparation, and of standing firm when faced with intimidation, no matter how absurd or overwhelming it seemed. It had shown how ordinary individuals, armed with courage and knowledge, could reclaim agency in the face of arbitrary authority, transforming fear into empowerment. Our family emerged stronger, more united, and attuned to the dynamics of power and influence within our community, with an unshakable resolve to protect what truly mattered. And as the sun set over the quiet streets that had once felt oppressive, I found myself pondering a question that would linger long after the confrontation. What lines are we willing to defend in our own lives, and how far will we go to protect the people and principles that matter most? It was a question that resonated not only for us, but for anyone watching, an invitation to reflect on courage, accountability, and the quiet power of standing firm when it matters most.